Welcome to Sustainable Stock, Reviving Legacy Genetics, the podcast that delves into the power of traditional cattle genetics and the ranchers bringing them back. We're returning to the tried and true practices that prioritize what truly works on the ranch. Each episode, we'll talk to ranchers who are rediscovering the methods that built strong, resilient, efficient, and fertile herds in the 1960s and 70s. These breeders are blending the best of the past with practical solutions for today's ranching world. Whether you're passionate about the future of ranching or curious about heritage genetics, this podcast is for you. Presented by Boss Sires. Tune in as we reconnect with the roots of the herd. Here's your host, Patrick Powers.
Hi, and welcome back to Sustainable Stock. Today we'll be talking with two cattlemen who've proven you don't need a big name or big association to build genetics that actually work. Scott Fredrickson is an esteemed rancher and high school basketball coach up in Montana. Not exactly your textbook seed stock breeder, but over the years he's quietly built a herd of Aubrac-based cows that could change the game. Matt Henley, based in North Carolina, is testing those same genetics under extreme conditions, using ultra-high density grazing. It's hot, humid, and brutally demanding, but the cattle are holding up, staying bred, and fleshing with ease. What ties these two together isn't a breed, it's a mindset. Select for what works, cull what doesn't, and forget chasing hype. Today we'll dig into how they built their herds, why they believe the industry is chasing all the wrong traits, and what it means when someone like Johann Zietzman calls your cattle some of the best he's seen in the U.S. Let's get into it, guys. Scott Fredrickson, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Matt Henley, are you with me?
I'm ready.
All right, guys. Well, I'd like to give each of y'all an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your history. Mr. Scott, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'm from a multi-generational farm and ranch. I've had cattle my whole life. I've done a number of things, but I've always had my cattle. I started breeding Aubrac cattle in 1996. I was part of a group called the Aubrac Alliance, and at the time, I didn't really think we needed another breed of cattle, but I seen some video on the Aubrac, and they kind of ticked all the boxes for me, so I put in about 200 units of semen and started a composite herd, and I stuck with that for probably 5 years. Ended up selling out due to financial circumstances. Got back in a couple years later, raising purebred Aubrac cattle, and here we are quite a few years later. I'm happily married, got 5 kids, and we ranch in northwest Montana, close to Flathead Lake.
All right. Mr. Henley?
Well, I'm on the family farm that I grew up on in central North Carolina. It's a pretty challenging environment what we're in, just based on humidity, rank, fescue, which we embrace and love, lots of pests, all kinds of other challenges that really push the animals. But as far as my cattle experience, grew up there on the farm, and then I had Aubrac cattle from 2006 until the 2008 recession, kind of like Scott. Ended up having to sell everything in 2012, and then got it turned around. And first person I called was Scott to try to get the right genetics back in North Carolina, because I saw what they could do then. But currently we do a grass-finished direct-to-consumer beef business that we're having great success, and I've found that however much I can raise, I can sell directly to consumers that appreciate what we're doing. But we're also using that as a test ground to kind of prove out the genetics as well. So that's kind of a weird way to make some EPDs, but looking at stakes and talking to customers is, as far as I'm concerned, the ultimate way to figure out that end of things. And then, strict culling in the cow herd is the other way to sort out the functionality of the cattle.
Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Scott, I touched a little bit in the intro on what brought you two together. And it's obvious that Matt here has a great appreciation for what you've built and what y'all are working towards together. Could you offer me a little education on what Aubracs are? The two of y'all are my first interaction with that breed.
Well, the Aubracs are an old breed from the Massif Central region of France, which is a poorer region. The soils don't allow for grain production. It's all grass and hay. One of the things I think is really important to understand is that the Aubrac have the largest per herd cow size of any breed in France. The average herd size is over 60, which is really large. It's probably not even that in the United States. So they've had to focus for many generations on convenience traits, being they've had such large numbers to work with. So
Yes, sir. Well, please tell me, how does as a basketball coach, end up finding cattle from France?
well, I've done a lot of things, not just a basketball coach, but I was at a bull sale, and a fellow by the name of Eric Grant had been to France on a media tour. He was writing for Beef Today at the time, and he told me I need to look into this breed of cattle, sent me some video, and I liked what I seen, got involved. And, it's just, here we are today. I've got a herd of about 150 Aubrac, purebred Aubrac females. I've sold cattle all over the country, and it's quite rewarding. It's frustrating at times, but I like what I have to offer. I believe I've improved the cattle. I've stuck with the same principles for many, many years, and the cattle are very functional.
I love the fact that your cattle's breed harkens to a time of efficiency, a placement of efficiency. It had to be a functionally efficient cow in that region that it was brought from, that it wasn't a grain belt area from what I'm hearing you speak on. Is that true of that breed as a whole? Or is it just the genetics you were able to get your hands on?
I believe it's that way as a whole. I believe the trend is increasing frame size over there, but I've tried to keep my cattle just like they were introduced to me 25 years ago.
Yes, sir.
The genetics have taken some horns off of them. So we are working that correction.
Yeah, we breed some of the only polled Aubrac cattle in the world. It's a trait that people are looking for.
That's been interesting on my end, because when you're running ultra high density, they're in close quarters, and if there's a few with horns, all they do is cause problems and that kind of thing. So I think, on range, horns can work better, but getting into the ultra high density stuff, we're strictly culling animals with horns now. They're coming from the commercial herd, or they just don't work in this system. I'm sure they work for some people. I'm just not willing to do it. It seems like an unfair advantage for a few cows to have weapons out there to get their own food with.
I like that. Well, this is obviously something y'all are both passionate about, this breed of cattle. Could you describe them? What is it about them that is just so endearing to both of y'all? Mr. Scott, would you like to take that?
Well, they're the right frame size. I believe they're a frame score 3 or 4. I believe they work into low input genetics, and they're selected, I think, for generations maternally. The cow families in France are very important, and they usually keep herd bulls out of certain cow lines that are proven to be trouble-free, low maintenance, and they pass these genetics down from generation to generation. So there's a lot of maternal inheritance with the Aubrac. Matt, would you say that's the case?
Oh yeah, that the maternal side is everything we're going to focus on. And a few of the things that I like about the Aubrac, one is that the color is just different. There's a benefit to it. just they're a lot lighter in the summer. They're dark in the winter. They reflect heat, during the hottest times, and they absorb heat in the coldest times. The temperament has been spectacular, and that's a credit to Scott's work, but also I'm sure plenty of generations before him. But and the frame we've like we have our AI bull Oliver. He's a frame 2.5, and we found that in our environment, that's probably about as big as I want them. I think it seems like the larger animals just have a hard time getting what they need out of it. They just have to work more for their maintenance requirements. Anyway, the other thing that I've seen is that in high density, the Aubracs, they're going to graze whatever they can find because that's what everybody does. But in the lower density grazing, I find that the Aubracs, they graze a much more diverse. They have a wide palette that they're going to graze all over the pasture and not just hit the candy that everybody wants. They'll browse anything they can find. That's been pretty good. Let's see. The other thing is that they've been focused on function, and that's we're not distracted by EPDs because there are no Aubrac EPDs. Either an animal works in the system or it doesn't, and that's been very straightforward. And I don't need a distraction of numbers from somebody else's environment. I know it works here, and so that's kind of been our focus.
So if y'all don't lean into or embrace EPDs or are there other forms of technology that y'all found really highlight the best qualities of Aubrac?
Well, a lot of what we've done has just been confirmation. We see what happens. We know how these things work. And then kind of nice to see the confirmation from other testing. But we've done quite a bit of testing, really. We've done Promogen testing, which is probably pretty not that well known. We've done some A2 testing, that kind of thing. Scott, you want to tell them about the Promogen test? That's kind of your area.
Yeah, I got involved with Promogen probably 3 years ago. I've tested my whole cow herd, all my herd bulls. And basically, it's a measurement of defensive proteins. The founder of and the mastermind behind Promogen is Dr. Bill Julian. And it's high-level defensive proteins. It seems to go right in line with healthy animals and the ability to fight off disease. And it's measured through bodily fluids, your saliva, semen, and whatnot. So I found it to be, in my herd, very, very interesting. And there's some data out there that shows, higher level of performance, higher level of feed efficiency. And it was first started they discovered that while trying to find colostrum and measure colostrum, and what about colostrum was making animals healthy, I guess. So one of our herd bulls, Promogen, was named because he was a very high scoring Promogen bull, and that was one of the criteria that we were after. And he's one of our leading sires for Boss Sire, co-owned with Lynn Post, another Texas person.
Hey, there we go.
Some other stuff we tested, like the Promogen, after Dr. Julian, is just mostly how stress resistant are these animals. They still thrive in a challenging environment. So still trying to sort a lot of that one out, but pretty promising. And his statement was that he came to Scott, as I understand, and said that Aubrac was just generations ahead of any other breeds they had tested because there's non-linear inheritance on these, and it just takes a lot longer to catch up on these. So anyway, that was interesting. The
The bell curve is much tighter with the Aubrac cattle.
Right. It's almost a given. They're going to be much higher. And then other testing we've done is A2 testing. Like I've tested Oliver. I'm not sure about the promo bull, but Oliver's A2, but almost a high percentage of Aubrac cattle are going to be A2. We've done identity testing, that kind of thing. And then we just got some results back on tenant testing, and I sent 5 off and got 5 out of 5 certified Aubrac bulls, which was pretty shocking, really, to everybody, I think. And then talked to Scott and found out that 13 out of 14 tested come back tenant certified. So that's it's not that much of a surprise to us because we know how these things work, but it's good confirmation when you hear things like 3, 5, 6%, whatever might be the national average, and we're 13 out of 14. There's something different there. So
yes, sir.
Anyway, we've been really happy with all the testing we've done. I'm not sure what's next, but we still embrace technology. It's just not in the form that's more of a distraction. This is the cattleman side of it's more important, and then we'll confirm with some other things. And every tool has a use, and EPDs have a use. Some other testing I had done when I brought animals here from Montana to North Carolina. You can't know which ones are going to work in fescue because there's just not fescue for them to be challenged with out there. So we actually did some fescue tolerance DNA testing, which I don't know that has a lot of. I haven't seen a lot of correlation in that, but we've when we don't have a better tool to use, we will use what's out there.
That's wonderful. For someone uneducated, what do these mean? What is the tangible value that is added with these testing? If I were to encounter that information, what assumptions could be made now knowing these things?
Well, as far as the A2, that's that one's near and dear to Scott's heart, I think. Scott, you want to talk about the A2?
Yeah, I've been testing probably for 20 years. When I do a DNA panel, I've actually got away from the panel actually that they have you run, just because I never seen the correlations really to what the DNA marker said my cattle should do. So I started looking for different just yes and no answers. And with my dairy background, I always felt like colored breeds had very high butter fat. And the colored breeds like Jersey, Guernsey, they're the ones that have the A2 milk at a higher percentage. So it just made sense to me to start testing for A2 milk, and that would be a gene that I would really like to have in my beef cattle. And because like butter fat will raise you a bigger calf with no extra energy input. So that was my thought process for the A2 milk. And what I found is probably 95% of Aubracs, and I probably tested 100 of them, are A2.
I can follow that logic. I like that.
It's better to have higher concentration of goodness milk instead of volume of milk. Doesn't mean that much.
Absolutely, it needs to be potent with the punch.
And if you can get any advantage to raising a calf, that first 2 weeks is going to dictate success quickly when things get hard.
Absolutely. Well, and to further my question, all these benefits found within Aubrac, are they going to be, as other factors do whenever you cross out of one breed of cattle into another, when you create composites, when Aubracs are used, do y'all feel a lot of these good traits carry over as well?
It seems to me that like all of I have a lot of crosses, and I swear like it's like 75% of the goodness gets passed on every time. And I'm a math guy, and the math doesn't work out for me. But there's heterosis that plays a lot in this that is going to give you a boost. But everything we've seen on my farm that's been an Aubrac cross has almost always improved the mother, no matter what it is.
Thank you so much for putting that in simple terms for me.
I think that the heterosis effect is important, but also these traits we're talking about are highly heritable. So they're going to pass on in a crossbred with the same heritability as a purebred.
So speaking of composites, the Aubrac gene pool is not a composite of any kind, and they're a recognized unique gene set, and there's not going to be anything that they're going to be bred to really that's going to be related to them. So maximum heterosis is acquired by animals that are the least related possible. This should be a heterosis boom of or boost of pretty much as much as that cow is going to be capable of. So and that could be part of what we're seeing. But yeah,
that offers a wonderful explanation for why you can expect the expression of these wonderful traits y'all keep highlighting, is because it's not just another drop in the bucket. It's something completely new in the mix.
Right. The interesting thing to me, like I got way deep into heterosis for a couple of years, and the amazing part is that all of the lowly heritable maternal traits that's what's boosted by heterosis. So they'll say that longevity and fertility and all these other things that make a real difference in how productive is that cow and how valuable is she. Those are all highly impacted by heterosis, and the things that are highly heritable aren't boosted as much because everybody talks about a few pounds of gain, that they might gain more weight that way. But all the other stuff that's lowly heritable is where heterosis comes in and brings that animal to a lot higher value to me.
Well, there we go.
Well, Grant talks a lot about this, but the heritability of fertility, I believe that if selection pressure is placed on fertility, like the right kind of selection pressure, that it's a lot more heritable than what it gets credit for.
Yes, sir.
I think mostly what academics are talking about heritability, they're not talking about functional heritability. They're not looking at the entire system, because complexity, you can't take all these factors out and then think that there's one factor that's going to make a difference. You have to look at the whole picture, and I think that's totally being lost with academics trying to research fertility just by itself, because there's so many things that go into it that once you take the complexity out of it, it's there's no point in talking about it the way they talk about it. Kind of like you can be an expert on hydrogen and oxygen, but you can know how those things work, but that doesn't mean you know anything about water when you put the two together.
I like that.
That's exactly what reductionist science does, and when you take the complex system out of it, you're wasting everybody's time and coming up with information very few can really use.
Yes, sir. I like that. Well, before I move on to questions about your ability to adapt Mr. Scott's cattle to your area and region, could you define what ultra high density grazing means to you? Everyone adopts the same terminology, but has minor changes in the definition. I want to really pinpoint your definition of that so I can know how well these cattle work within it.
So we're running narrow strips, and the cows are moving 4 times a day. It's mostly based on the Elizondo total grazing method, with some changes just to get things to work for our system. But we're running anywhere from, over the winter, we were averaging about 600 to 680,000 pounds per acre and moving 4 times a day. That got us through the winter, and I found it to be really, that we stretch grass a lot further than we did the winters before that. And the animals did really well as long as we stayed on top of our game. And the challenges with that is, you're on the razor's edge all the time. and you have to see problems coming. And we've had some of our animals have not fared so well in that, and they can lose condition pretty quickly. But one thing we have seen is that the Aubrac cattle have held their flesh even through my misgivings. So even when I screw it up, they still pretty much bail me out. We have a couple other breeds, Montana and Murray Gray, and the Montanas have done pretty well. I found them to be a little more higher maintenance requirement animal in that environment. They're willing to graze, they're going to get it done, but I don't think I see that metabolic efficiency in those. And the Murray Grays that we use, it's a terminal breed just for our grass finished beef, and they've done pretty well. But I've not seen the maternal traits I'm looking for in those, and the fleshing ability is just not what an Aubrac is. So that's kind of why we pin what we're doing is I'm willing to have Aubracs and some other breeds, but I'm not willing to give up the Aubrac.
Well, y'all really put me in a lucky position today, having both of y'all on. I usually speak to a producer and have to take their word for their cattle's ability to adapt to different locations. But I'm lucky enough to have you today, Mr. Henley. Could you speak on Aubrac's ability to adapt to different environments?
Sure. So all the Aubrac genetics I bought directly from Scott in Montana and hauled them east, which everybody says you shouldn't do. And it's hard, and it's a long ride. But anyway, I bought 10 heifers and a bull after a large selection. Me and Scott went through DNA, like everything, like sometimes that's all you got to deal with to figure out if they're going to work in North Carolina. I'm not sure it helped any, but anyway, we got lucky and found a really good bull that came out, and then some of the cows. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's a hard transition coming from there to here, and all the heifers I bought did not work out. But I also bought the same group of another breed and brought them here, and not one of those worked out. So it's kind of a transition of just finding the animals that have that functionality and fleshing ability. And mainly I'm just looking for somebody that shows up every day, does their job, and doesn't cause me any problems. I'm not looking for any flash or anything like that.
Well, Mr. Scott, along those same lines, I mean, we have a scathing review of the capability. Do you feel like that was found through your management practices or your practices in partnership with the capabilities of the breed of cattle you're working with?
We're real low cost. We're real low input here. My wife always tells me that we don't put near as much into our cattle as people around us, but I think it's the genetics. They're just robust. They're Matt mentioned metabolic efficiency. They're very, very high metabolically. They're aggressive. They graze hard. They convert very well, I believe, and they just stay in good shape. So I think the fact that, in particular, Matt's bull, Oliver, has just done an amazing job for him down there. And I don't know if you've seen video of him, but it's really working. And so there's an adaptability there. And that's good to see because they sure do well in our environment. We're
Yes,
higher elevation, crested wheatgrass and sagebrush. That's what we have, and they do really well on it.
Yes, sir. Well, I was wondering if you could go a little further in your management. I always like to hear from a producer and see what it truly takes to stay within the operation and the herd. I imagine y'all can't be very forgiving on things like feet and mothering capabilities and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're looking for the trouble-free animals. I've had a closed herd pretty much since I've been raising Aubracs. I keep my herd bulls out of cows that, the cowman would say I'd like 1,000 just like that. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that cow that just does her job, really well, stays in tremendous flesh and has good udder, good feet, and that's what I keep my bulls, out of cows like that. And I've been doing that for a long time, and it's a good recipe.
I kind of got the good end of this because Scott spent, decades getting everything straightened out. And I knew when I went there the last time to look at animals, it's amazing that they're just consistent on structure. And that saved me a bunch of heartache on this end. It's I don't know how you could build a more useful animal. And I went to a grazing conference, grass-fed exchange in Pennsylvania a year or two ago, and I represented the breed there just because I was the closest. And I had people come along and they're like, why do we need another breed? It seems like there's enough out there. And mostly what I ended up with was that, and the truth is you don't have to know the answer to that. It just feels right to begin with. But when people are standing in front of you asking the questions, you have to come up with something, and I come up with the real answer there. And to me, it's once you get done with chasing big numbers and trying to make magic happen on paper and all that other stuff, this is kind of the advanced course of cattle, where you're done with the junk and all you need is just something that shows up every day, and another thing you don't need to worry about. So,
well, along those same lines, would you feel that y'all weren't even chasing a breed? I mean, neither one of y'all inherited this breed of cattle from a grandfather. You found your way to it. So these genetics had to have proved themselves to y'all in some manner for y'all to still be in it and be able to speak so highly.
Right. Well, in 2006, my family had a purebred Angus operation, and I understood what that was, and I knew that it wasn't functional for the commercial man, and I knew we needed some other breed to go with it. And I was living in Colorado at the time. I spent 2 years going all over the West, just looking for anything. If they had a sale, if there was a breeder to let me come look, I looked at pretty much everything. If you know them out there, I probably went to visit them within a state or two of Colorado. And I had this one guy, Eric Grant, same one that Scott mentioned. And Eric said, "Hey, why don't you come out and check these things out?" And I was like, "Oh, there's another cow sale. I'll run by there too." I spent there's no telling how much time and money was spent to find it. But like when I walked into the sale barn that was there, I said, "Oh my God, there's the animal I need." And it was just that structure was right, flesh was right, everything was just there. And like that, you just fell in love that day. And that's probably not the storybook functional story people are looking for, but something felt right and looked right, and instincts kicked in there. But that they were my choice above anything else for sure.
Well, along those same lines, Mr. Fredrickson, why do you feel like genetics like these aren't mainstream?
Well, I guess for one, color. They're a beautiful animal, but when you cross them with a red animal, for example, you get different shades of color. And I think that's probably, it's a black world out there. You got to have black cattle to really top the market. And but things change, and with the regenerative movement, and there's just a lot of people that are breeding cattle that have to have lower energy requirements, and that's where we found our market. And people are doing what they have to do to incorporate these genetics into their cattle to make their cattle more efficient, whether it's using them as a composite, or using them with certain other breeds to adapt the color so it's marketable. That would be what I would say. I think if these cattle would have came into the country in the 70s, when all the other European cattle came over, exotic breeds, they would have been much more popular today.
Well, Mr. Fredrickson, here at Ball Sires, we speak about shifting the reward infrastructure and how these different classes of cattle would truly shine if we could all take a step back and get the color out of our mindset and the bigger is better and all that. If conventional cattlemen or producers could take a step back, I corrected myself there because there's not as many cattlemen left in this world as you'd hope. But if traditional cattle producers could take a step back and forget everything they've learned and truly look for what works and what works with your budget, do you feel like breeds such as yours and Mashonas or other small frame cattle that just are producers and can fight the fertility fight we're having with cattle right now and the cost of inputs, do you feel like they would shine? Or do you think it's going to need to be this monumental shift, or do you think there's still a place in the market for them right now, right here?
Well, it's already happening. I mean, our market grows every year, and I'm getting calls all the time from people, wanting to know about the breed, what they can they help their bottom line. So I think it's already happening.
Okay, well, tell me, how could it help my bottom line? I shift mine tomorrow. What can I expect year one? I have a pasture I've overgrazed out here. I'm only on 10 acres. I can only support at max 10 of my miniature cattle. They're the larger size of miniature, but I'm considering the shift, sir. What are the immediate benefits?
Well, you'll get hybrid vigor, you'll get more pounds, you'll get a higher meat to bone ratio, and you'll get better fertility. One of the big problems with grass finishing, and I'm sure Matt can back me up on this, but your carcass, this is the carcass weights and the carcass yield you get. There's a big variation. Aubrac cattle are homozygous for the profit gene, which is a myostatin gene that does not affect fertility, which enables 30% more high retail yield in your animal. So your retail cuts, your high price steaks, you get 30% more just with one cross of Aubrac. And so I think I can help you out.
The other
I've actually got a customer that has some miniature Red Angus miniature Herefords that has started using Aubrac, and he's just done amazing things for him.
So the other thing you're going to end up with, you're going to end up with some spectacular heifers that come out of there. That they just work, they know their job. That's kind of what is amazing to me, is that when you cross an Aubrac on almost anything, that heifer that comes out of there, she jumps up. She might not be the most muscular thing when she's born, but 3 weeks later, there's going to be muscle hanging on that heifer. She's going to get bred, and when that first calf hits the ground, she knows what to do. It's just we've crossed them on 3 or 4 different breeds, and it's, I don't know, it's amazing that people show up want to buy heifers, and I just don't want to sell most of those just because I like them.
Well, Mr. Fredrickson, would you say that these are cattle that are made to do it on grass alone? There's a heavy desire for grass-fed beef, but no one understands that disconnect between grass capable and grass finishing. I might have phrased that poorly, but I think y'all get the gist of what I'm after.
Yeah, all I can think of is, aren't they all? I mean, they should be if they're not.
Yeah. Well, we've discussed the assumptions that happen within the cattle market on other episodes. That's where producers fall short, and the education of buyers. Buyers come into shopping cattle with an assumption of fertility, an assumption of forage for efficiency, an assumption of all these other capabilities, good feed, other stuff. And it isn't until year 3, year 4, year 5, and these systems let them down and they're trimming feet and they're pouring feed, they realize they might have gone the wrong direction.
Well, that's one of my passion points there, is that people that are going to buy an animal need to trust who they're buying it from more than anything else. They also need to understand the production system that their person they're buying from is using, because it's, anybody can put up some pictures, anybody can say whatever they want to say, but you have to find that person that you trust without question, and that's the only way. You need to actually build a relationship with your seed stock, or whoever you're buying animals from, and I think that'll save years down the road of progress. And animals that don't deliver only set you back for a long time.
Yes, sir. Well, do y'all feel like y'all been ignored by mainstream industry because y'all aren't backed by a large association or have all these marketing dollars on y'all's behalf? Are y'all proud that your cattle speak for themselves? Do y'all wish y'all had these things? I know that's a lot of questions all in one, but I'd like to give each of y'all an opportunity to speak on that. Mr. Fredrickson?
Well, I'm sure happy with what I've done, and I've been able to do things the way I want to do them. I haven't had to play any games, purebred games. I threw away the scale and the tape many years ago. I make my selections based on what's working in my pastures, and so I feel real good about the product that I produce, and I've really enjoyed meeting the people. And I've always said, if you can pick and choose your customers, you can guarantee your success. And in a way, I've been able to do that. I wouldn't try to sell these cattle to just anybody. So they have to have the right mindset and be looking for what I have to offer. And it's been very rewarding finding those people.
Well, let's hear from one of those people right now. Mr. Henley?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm sure there could have been, I feel like it's a secret that the world needs to discover. And that's kind of I'm super appreciative that Boss Sires has come along, because the world needs what y'all are doing. And 95% of the world doesn't know they need it. So that's where the progress is going to be made. And it should be pretty low hanging fruit, because there's a lot of tired people out there that don't understand why what they're doing is not more rewarding. I'm not saying that Aubrac is the right thing for everybody. I'm just saying that a company like Boss Sires that has the right mindset and understand what struggles people are enduring, and trying to find the right solution for them. That's that I don't think any other semen company or genetics company has really come close to that, at least not with a large audience like y'all have built. I will say that I find it a little disappointing that we've not found more customers along the way. But honestly, when I had Aubrac before, in like 2006, there was no marketing machine for me. The only marketing machine out there was something like the Angus Association, or somebody that was out there just churning it out all day long, and that just turned everything into a black animal in our area. And then I just turned into something that people drove by and said, "I wonder what that is." But without the internet and good marketing, it's been really tough. And I'm not even sure that we should have had more people, but I just feel like it's something that a lot of people would appreciate and could use and make their lives easier if found.
To further those points a little more, we're not married to any breed, and we don't really care for producers that feel that one breed is the answer for all. My backyard is different than yours, and we may even have the same grass, but it has the ability to carry a different nutrient load, and my weather is different, and my cattle's relationship with the land might need to be considerably different than yours. And the moment that you as a producer can recognize that, you can realize that your stock could fall short for one individual. Both of y'all have spoken on that to some degree, and I have a level of respect for y'all that I can't measure. The fact that each of y'all can recognize that your cow isn't the right cow for every corner of the globe says more about you than anything.
Well, one thing that I will say is that what I really love, I talked to Grant. He's talked about all these other places that are needing a genetic change. Well, all of the native adapted cattle in those areas, that's what I am excited about, taking something like the Aubrac. Like, if we're doing well with purebred Aubracs in hot, humid North Carolina, then I know that's going to transfer to some other countries that are further south, only because they're going to get that crossbred calf that's going to bring in that new blood with the Aubrac, but it's also on the back of that adapted cattle that knows what it's doing there, and its mother knew, and its grandmother knew, that kind of thing. But the crossbreeding is what crossbreeding on an adapted animal that knows what it's doing in that environment is. That's what
You're excited by the opportunity to add value rather than take away.
Right.
A lot of the current attitude to that is native cattle are nothing more than a tool to bring in your larger frame cattle and adapt them more quickly. That native cow is just your ability to make Angus be able to live in your backyard. And from what I'm hearing from the two of y'all is you're excited about the opportunity for yours to work in step and improve those genetics as well, and improve the relationship between producer and cattle in those regions.
Yep. And we've seen the Aubrac Mashona cross has been spectacular for me. It's in Johann Zietzmann's Man Cattle Veld, he even pointed out that the only I'm pretty sure the most productive cross in the U.S. for a grass only system was a Mashona Aubrac cross, and I didn't know what a Mashona was, and nobody else knew what an Aubrac was probably at the time either.
Well, that was good. We were going next, sir. I was going to ask both of y'all to speak on that.
Okay. But the Mashona cross with an Aubrac has it's added some muscle, and it's in the vigor of the animal when they get up. I think it just balances out so much of what's Mashonas aren't really known for having a lot of meat hanging off of them, and this kind of balances that out with all of the many traits of hybrid vigor, with the better fertility, some more pounds, but mostly whatever is lowly heritable is what crossbreeding is going to give a boost, and that's about as close to a free lunch as cattle genetics is going to offer.
Well, Mr. Fredrickson, I was wondering if, after Matt touching on Zietzmann, could you give us a little taste of the infamous story of him visiting y'all?
Oh, it was, I'm not sure what year it was. Probably 10 years ago, he came out to our farm. I didn't know who he was. He came out with a gentleman named Paul Butler and looked over the cattle, and we went out and looked at the cow herd, and he just shook his head. He said, that's a better herd than the Lassiter herd. And I thought that was quite a compliment, but he's been promoting my cattle ever since. And his, that was about the time he wrote his book. And, we went over a lot of his selection, how he selects his cattle. And basically I've been selecting that way for generations. But he had a system which was, maybe more written and easy to follow for people. But
yes, sir.
Nice fellow, not besides being famous and writing a book, and just a nice guy.
That's wonderful. Well, we spoke on the value of crossbreeding and composites, but y'all have only given y'all's individual experiences, and I was wondering if y'all have just a boom case of how it went in and really made a difference, or someone has just fallen in love with the act of crossing into these kind of cattle.
Well, Cooper Hibbert at the Sebin Ranch in Cascade, Montana, has developed, he has a 7-breed composite, and the last breed he's used has been the Aubrac, and he's talked about it on other podcasts, but, just how valuable they, what kind of input they've, just all positives, basically, in his cow herd, in his program, it's been all positive. So
did he ask anything uniquely demanding of these genetics within his operation, or would you say that his is pretty normal?
They practice a high degree of high density grazing, especially in the wintertime. I don't know if it's ultra high density grazing, but they move their cattle one time a day on native pasture all through the winter. It's not, they're not supplemented unless weather extremes, but storms coming in or whatnot. But it's they do well in that system on just grass.
As I understood it from Cooper's story, was that he had gone about as far as he could go with the cow herd that he had, and bringing in the Scott's Aubrac bulls had kind of unlocked the next level for him to start moving his animals in the right direction that worked in his system, because he just kept hitting a wall that he could not get by without some new genetics.
Yeah. Under his high intensity management, he needed to change his genetics, and I believe the Aubrac cattle really benefited him in moving in that direction. I believe they've doubled their grazing capacity of their winter grazing country through ultra high density grazing, but it takes a more efficient. The genetics had to change to make that happen, and the Aubrac have really helped Cooper out, I believe.
That's wonderful. We're big proponents of creating the right animal for your environment. So to hear someone being able to use those as a tool to express that is just great. Well, fellas, I would like to shift our conversation. We've really highlighted y'all's passion and care you have for this breed of cattle. But I would like to shift to more of a general conversation about philosophy and hopes for the industry as a whole, both the American cattle market and the market abroad. Mr. Fredrickson, what do you hope to see come of the American cattle market in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, I'd like to see it get dialed in more on a sustainability and lower input genetics that are good for the planet and sustainable. And I think Aubrac genetics really help in that regard.
Yes, sir. Mr. Henley, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, along the same route. Somehow we've ended up in a system that is mostly degenerative as far as the amount of grain usage, the amount of diesel it takes to create that, the amount of diesel it takes to transport all those things, and somehow we have to get to a system that's going to have more of a holistic approach that looks at more than just did my dollars go up or down. That there's a lot of unintended consequences in the way the system has developed, but looking at the true impact on those around us, including the community, small farm profitability. That's the stuff that in the regenerative space that most people are not talking about, because it's not all about soil health. That's the easiest place to start, because we can all relate to it, and somehow we have to get out of our silos and go embrace our neighbors, go embrace the people that are around us that need help. We need help too. So that's kind of something that we do. We embrace every person, every group that's willing to talk to us, come see us. We try to help them, that kind of thing. And I think that's probably more missing in our agricultural system than anything else. But somehow getting the food system back to a more local product, which is kind of what we're doing, because like I was sort of in the semi-commercial world before I sold out in 2012, and then had a plan. And now when we're calving the animals out, taking them to process and selling that directly to consumers that come see us every week, that's the model that I think is going to have to continue growing, because I don't see how the end point of what we're currently doing is going to. Something has to fall apart at some point, and the earlier we get started on a lower input, less diesel based, less of a feed truck showing up, I think everybody's going to get some benefits down the road.
Well, you bulldozed right through my next question, which was how do we achieve these hopes and desires? I think you've covered that fairly well, sir. I like it. You don't just bring a message of broad hope. You give options and alternatives, and a sense of community is what you're hoping for more than anything, from what I gather. Mr. Fredrickson, would you like to see that as well? A greater sense of community and work among each other?
Yeah. When the expenses are getting so high, and when one person goes out because they're forced out of business or whatever, it's a domino effect. Somebody else is gonna it's gonna be the next man up. It's gonna be the one that goes down. So yeah, we have to get a handle on our expenses and change our model.
And
Yes, sir.
Scott, you've reached out, I know, to some other organizations around you to help them graze some land, and I think that's done some community building, correct?
Yep. We've we have our places under an easement. We try to develop our bird habitat, and we try to be good to our riparian areas. And um, you know, we're in this. We want to see this survive for generations, and I think our model has to change.
That's my next question for you two, is what's the next step for each of y'all's operations? Is there something coming right around the bend to be excited about for each of y'all, or is it just broad strokes?
It just I haven't made these cows look exactly like a herd of antelope yet, so I'm still striving for that. And
I love that. That's great.
I just want to make the cattle better. I want to get a bigger market. I want to keep helping people that need help with the right kind of genetics.
Yes, sir.
Well, our end goal, the overarching goal of our entire business, is to make grass finishing genetics for the Southeast in general. That's what we've been focused on, and starting with the right genetic components and then putting those composites together, where when people do say, I just can't do this commercial ag anymore, and they want to make a change slowly, that's where some bulls come in. But also we've got quite a few people that are moving out to their small little places out, and they made some money in town, and they're going to go buy a small place, and they want to start with 4 or 5 or 6 animals. And that's kind of the point, is for us to show up with a ready-made herd that's adapted to this area, ready to go. And that's the 10-year plan, is to have something that's in kind of a turnkey operation, and say, here's exactly the recipe, here's the genetics that do it. And
I like that. A little bit of hand holding through those most common years of failure. I mean, the average cattle producer fails within 5 years. And it's typically because they want to make the strongest investment they can for their small portion of impact. Place like mine, moved out of the city, bought the biggest place I can afford, 10 acres, and wanted to have the largest impact I could with my very small herd. And if I would have fallen into the trap of the majority of the industry, I'd have spent my dollar for dollar on the best thing I could buy out of a catalog, and within 5 years been so frustrated with cattle I'd have been done.
right.
And I like that you're trying to be a solution the other direction.
Right. And even, we have people approach us every weekend at the farmers market. We're there on Saturdays and Sundays. There's somebody that comes along, and they just can't wait to go and get, their 10 acres, and then they want to start their farm, and they all want to start with cattle. And the truth is that most businesses fail for cash management. And a lot of people need to start with chickens or sheep, something that's a small investment that turns over quickly, and then build it from there. But when people get to the cattle point, just know that no matter what, especially now with cattle prices, it's gonna take a lot more resources than what most people think. Unless you just buy 1 or 2 and just let them reproduce naturally, and not many people have that kind of patience. So.
Well, I'm getting to the part of the show where I want to ask each of y'all about the weight of stewardship and what you carry beyond cattle. So, this is for both of y'all, and I would like to give each of y'all an opportunity to answer. In y'all's view, what is the moral obligation of the cattlemen to the land, the industry, and the next generation? I know y'all have each spoken on this in some way, but I'd like to get a steady stream of thought from each of y'all.
Well, I'll go first. I believe that cattle are a vital part of uh, developing our planet in a healthy way, not only for the environment, but for the people. You know, ground can be totally turned around from poor quality to good quality by proper management with cattle. And I think that's a story that has been lost. And I'm just so glad to see that it's making a resurgence. And a lot of people that are from cities and stuff are starting to realize that cattle aren't bad. They're good for our environment. And, they've been around a long time. They were in the manger, I believe, when baby Jesus was born. So they go back a long ways. So
Yes, sir.
I believe that they're critical part of moving forward as a culture.
Give me that question one more time. There's a lot of nuance in your wording.
It's in your view, what is the moral obligation of the cattlemen to the land, the industry, and the next generation?
I would say my moral obligation is the same as any holistic approach. That mainly that means that I'm improving the land or the people or the animals or anything like that every day with every decision, and for the short term and the long term. That's and on the converse side of that is probably more important to me, that none of those things are being abused to make this happen. That's kind of our approach on those things. But as far as the moral obligation as a cattleman or things like that, obviously we want to deal with people straightforwardly and honest. But being able to provide that genetic package or that recipe for that person that really doesn't know what they're doing, that's kind of a moral imperative for me to so that they don't have to go through all the dumb things I've done. They're going to do their own dumb things, but hopefully we can start them out at a point further along. But the next generation that you mentioned is that one is something I'm clearly concerned about. As a parent, for one, I'm concerned about my kids, what's coming up for them. But also, I look out and I see a lot of people that, being at the farmers market in town every weekend, I see so many people that are desperate for a connection to something that is real, something that they feel like is innate inside them, and that's where I see those people and their kids. Like, something's going to change for our system down the road, and it might be that everybody ends up having to go back to 90% of populations farming like it was a couple hundred years ago, and we're going to be totally not prepared for that. But that next generation is what really gets me motivated to keep working when it seems like some days we're just doing nothing but the same stuff over and over. And then I'll get that one call from somebody that wants to come see what we're doing because they heard something great. And that's kind of what keeps me pushing along. It's definitely not the money or the easy lifestyle.
I saw a very funny picture the other day, guys, and it was cattlemen hiring for the ranch. And it says, we're only looking for part-time help, no more than 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
I don't think that could be any more true.
That's right. Yep. That's only half the week.
Yeah. Well, guys, what do y'all feel like? What would you hope the major takeaway from this episode of Sustainable Stock is?
I think that there's options out there that people need to take a look at. And, the Aubrac genetics are one of those options if they're looking for efficient cattle production, low maintenance cattle.
Yes, sir.
one thing is that finding that right animal for what you need is the question. So having a relationship with the person you're buying an animal from, I have people that call me, and I will happily tell them that I don't think this is the right animal for your operation. Somebody's going to send their animals to the sale barn, and not really work on the marketing side of it. They just might do better with something that's black in our area. But if you're trying to do something bigger than just take animals to the sale barn, maybe we have something to offer. I'm not saying they're wrong for the sale barn, by the way. I just, you have to find that right fit for somebody.
Both of y'all have highlighted that well today, the needs of your cattle. It sounds like y'all want buyers that are educated on what their land all needs from cattle and what their land has to offer the cattle. And y'all are really good at marrying those two together. Well, guys, thank y'all for your time today. I don't think of two greater guys I could have spent an evening speaking with. It's very exciting to hear about y'all's breed and the passion y'all bring along with it. And the fact that it's not as recognized, but it follows all the same principles that many of the boss sire breeders follow, have lived by, and have built their herds around. I think y'all are doing great work, and I hope that y'all feel the success that should come your way if y'all keep true to what y'all believe. So thank y'all for coming on today, and that's it for this episode of Sustainable Stock. Any relevant links for these guys will be available in the description below, as usual. And until next time, ranch with purpose and breed for the future. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Sustainable Stock, Reviving Legacy Genetics. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share. Join us next time as we continue exploring the legacy and future of cattle ranching. For more information, visit us at bosssires.com. That's BOSSIRES.com. Or connect with us on Facebook. Until then, stay rooted in common sense and connected to the herd.